In this episode, I want to share something that's been at the heart of my journey. The message that change is always possible, no matter where you are in life. In the previous episode, I've shared with you the struggles, the pain, the fears I faced. But now I want to focus on something else. The reason I'm doing this podcast and the message I really want you to take away, change is very much possible. You see, I wasn't always at peace. I didn't always have this clarity in my life. In fact, there were times when I thought I'd never find peace at all. There were times when I felt completely lost, stuck in a cycle of pain, grief, and confusion. It wasn't until later in my life that I began to understand something I wish I had learned earlier. That everything can change. But change doesn't just happen. You don't just wake up one day and suddenly everything is better. No, change takes work. It takes introspection, courage, and the willingness to take that first step, even when it feels like everything is working against you. It requires faith. Faith that something better is possible, even when you can't see how it's just going to happen. When I look back at my life, I realized there were a few days, a few key moments, a few lessons that allowed me to take this shift. I want to share those with you today because I believe they are the same lessons that can help you transform your life, no matter where you are or what you are going through. One of the biggest things I had to learn was how to let go. Now, that might sound easy, but trust me, it's not. I was a person who carried everything with me. Every hurt, every disappointment, every fear. I held on to them as if they would define who I was. And for a long time, they did. But here is the thing, you are not your pain. Pain doesn't define you, it only shapes you. If you allowed it to happen. And for years, I allowed it to shape me in the worst of ways. I let my past control how I saw myself. I let the shame, the guilt, and the fear from my childhood and from my experiences in Romania as well dictate how I lived as an adult. I didn't think I deserved better. I didn't think I could have a peaceful life. I thought my life had to be about surviving, not thriving. But there where the change comes in. I realized I could choose. That was the moment everything started to shift. I realized I could choose to stop living in the past. I could choose to stop carrying around those old wounds, the ones that had been festering inside me for decades. But I had to make a decision, a choice, to let go of the anger, of the bitterness, of the resentment. I won't lie, it wasn't easy. It took years, but the first step was acknowledging that I had the power to choose. The moment I realized that I had the ability to decide how I would react to life, rather than just reaching out and reacting out of habit, was when things began to change. I know that sounds like a big realization, like it's something everyone should know, but believe me, it wasn't until I was in my 60s that I understood the truth. That's the thing about life. You learn things when you're ready to learn them, not necessarily when you want to learn them. I think for a long time I wasn't ready really. I wasn't ready to forgive, to let go, or to accept that I could be happy. But something changed when I met Glenda, my wife, my soulmate. I'm not saying she saved me, but she helped me see life in a new way. She showed me that it was okay to be happy, to let myself experience joy, and to truly love without fear. You know, when you've been through as much as I have been through, love, can seem like a foreign concept. You think you don't deserve it, or you think it's going to hurt you again. But Glenda showed me that love isn't about deserving, it's about giving and receiving. It's about, creating something beautiful together. It was through her love that I finally began to heal. And that healing wasn't just about emotional wounds, it was physical too. For years, I had physical ailments that I couldn't explain. I had issues with my health, problems that seemed to get worse the older I got. But when I started to let go of the mental, emotional baggage that I had, my body began to feel lighter. The stress melted away. I wasn't holding on to all the tension anymore. Now, I'm not saying it was a magic fix. I still have bad days even today. I still struggle with my health at times. But the difference is I don't let it control me anymore. I choose how I respond. And that, my friends, is a very powerful thing. Another huge lesson I learned is that you have to believe, you have to believe in yourself, something greater than yourself as well. For that meant turning to faith. I grew up Jewish, but it wasn't until much later in life that I truly understood the power of faith. I didn't just believe in God, I felt His presence in my life. I didn't just pray to Him, I talked to Him. He was, sitting right there with me. That's the way it seemed to me. And, that connection made all the difference. Faith became the foundation for my change. It wasn't about religion or rituals. It was about knowing that I wasn't alone in my struggles. It was about trusting that there was a bigger plan for me, a purpose that was greater than the pain I had endured. You see, I don't care what you believe in as long as you believe in something. You have to find that anchor, that source of strength that can carry you through the tough times. For me, it was faith, my faith. For you, it might be something else. But the point is, you can't go through life without something to hold on to when the storm comes. And trust me, the storm will come, many of them. They always do. But if you have faith, If you believe in something bigger than your own circumstances, it gives you the courage to keep moving forward. You are not ever too old to change. I know some of you may be thinking, Alex, that sounds nice, but I'm stuck. I've been living the same way for years. I am too old to change now. Well, let me tell you this. If I can't change, you can change. I didn't find my peace until I was 63. It wasn't until then that I truly felt I was living my life on my own terms. And if I can do it, anyone can. So if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're thinking that it's too late for you, I want you to hear me loud and clear. It's never too late. Change is always possible. It doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been stuck, or how many times you failed. The only thing that matters is that you decide right now that you are ready for something better. And then you take your first step. I know it's hard. I know it feels like you walk through mud at times. But trust me, change is possible. I lived it, and so can you. If you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to let go of what's holding you back, if you're willing to believe that something better is out there for you, that change will happen. All right, now that we talked a bit about my story and the lessons I've learned, let's get into the practical side of things. Because let's face it, learning stories is one thing, but if you are in a tough spot right now that you really want this advice that you can use, you want something you can actually do to start making a change in your life. So today, I'm going to share with you 3 very practical steps that helped me through some of the toughest times in my life. These are the magic fixes. There is no quick cure for all the life struggles, but I promise you, if you commit to these steps, you'll start seeing change. And that change, it'll give you the strength to keep going on. So now, step 1, let's call it acknowledge where you are. That's a very tough one, actually. The first thing I want you to do is take a hard look at where you are in life right now. This might sound simple, maybe, but something many people avoid doing because it's usually very uncomfortable. You know what? Let's be real about this. Are you stuck in a job you hate? Are you dealing with emotional wounds that you just can't seem to shake? Are you feeling lost or uncertain about your future? Well, the first step to changing your life is acknowledging what's not working. You don't have to fix it right away, but you do need to recognize it. Because until you do, you'll stay in the same cycle of denial and frustration, never truly moving forward. All right, here is step 2. Take small, actionable steps. Once you've acknowledged where you are, it's time to make a plan. But there's one thing, you don't have to make a huge leap right away. Don't think you need to turn your entire life around overnight. In fact, trying to make too many changes at once is one of the quickest ways to get overwhelmed and give up. The key here is consistency. Small steps add up over time. Don't underestimate how much progress you can make when you break things down into manageable pieces. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I first arrived in America, I didn't know much English. I had a hard time communicating. And that, made everything feel 10 times or even more harder. But instead of letting that stop me, I made a small commitment to learn a few words every day. It was nothing huge, just 10 words a day. But you know what happened? By the end of that first year, I knew thousands of words. And suddenly, I could communicate, could build relationships, I could succeed in my career. If I had tried to learn everything at once, most likely I would have been paralyzed by the amount of work ahead. But those small steps turn into a big result. And you can do the same in your own life. Now let me get to step 3 now. Embrace failure as part of the process. Now there is something tough for you, real tough. I know this one is not easy. Why? Because I went through it myself, so I know. But it's so important, you have to embrace failure. It sounds counterintuitive, right? I mean, who wants to fail? We've all been taught to avoid failure at all costs. And just a side thing, I must tell you that engineers, there is nothing more for them to hate than their own failure. I said that in an earlier lesson, is basically lethal for me. Every successful person, whether they are an entrepreneur, an athlete, or just someone who's overcome a major personal challenge, for sure has faced failure. The difference is they didn't let it stop them. They learned from it and kept going. Now, I failed plenty of times in my life. Please trust me. In my career, in my personal relationships, in my quest for happiness. But I always learn from those failures. They taught me something extremely valuable. They pushed me to be better, to think differently, and to grow. For example, when I first started my career, I didn't get every job I wanted. I failed in several attempts. There were interviews where I thought I had nailed it, but I didn't get the position. Those rejections hurt bad. Please believe me. But instead of giving up here again, I took them as opportunities to improve. I asked myself, what could have I done better? and use that feedback to better my skills for the next opportunity. So, if you're facing a setback right now, don't be afraid of it. Don't run away from it. Learn from it. Understand that failure does not define you. It refines you. It teaches you lessons that success just can't. Now, remember, change isn't easy, as I said. It requires effort, patience, and persistence. But if you keep going, if you stick with it, I promise you, you'll see progress. And one day, you look back and realize just how far you've come. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to change. And I'm here to remind you that it's always possible. So take that first step today, please. Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of Change is Very Much Possible. I want to thank you so much for joining me and taking the time to listen. It's not easy to open up and share the tough parts of your life, but I'm here to do just that, and I'm grateful you are here to listen. Next week, we'll dive even deeper into the power of faith and how it helped me through some of my very hardest times. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned for that. Thank you again for being here today. I look forward to connecting with you the next time. And until then, remember, change is very much possible. Let's make it happen together. Bye now.